From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hangin' With web show, it's the legend of the Traveling Tardis. Look inside and behind the scenes at some of the most enduring and beloved science fiction worlds. Step inside the doors to a world that is bigger, brighter, and beyond imagination. And now, join your host, Christian Basel, as you become a part of the legend of the Traveling Tardis.
Welcome back, Whovians, to another exciting episode of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. I'm your host, Christian Basel. Today, and I have to say this because I got a little rippings from some other friends of mine who do podcasts, so I also have to say this. If you have not seen the episode, spoiler alert ahead, we're going to be talking about Doctor Who and the Arachnids in the UK. But I don't want to do this alone, so I'd like to introduce the panel for today. I have Jessica Womack of SongSwann Cosplay on Instagram. Hey, Jessica, how you doing?
Hi. Doing well.
Go ahead.
It's SongSwann.
SongSwann. What did I say? Swan song?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll never get this right.
It's okay. I never get it right either.
I know.
Someone says I flip it, and you asked me right before we came on. I was like, yeah, no, it's not.
Folks, I actually asked Jessica, I said, what is your Instagram? She goes, it's Swan Song. And I said, it's SongSwann. And I'm like, so it is SongSwann Cosplay. So if you're on Instagram, check it out, follow her. It's awesome. She does some wonderful cosplay. And to my other side is Kevin Kessler, author Kevin Kessler. How you doing, Kevin? How's it going, brother?
It's actually Kessler J. Kevin.
I'm kidding. I hate you right now.
I'm doing good. Definitely ready to talk about the Doctor and talk about what we got into this week.
Now, you got something exciting coming up yourself, because I'm not going to be the only podcast on the Independent Creative Network. Tell us about what you're doing.
So we've got a new show that's launching actually this week or we're recording this week with our first episode. It's called the Just Us Watchtower, and it's going to be a look at the CW DC universe. So that's the Flash, Arrow, DC Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Supergirl. So very excited.
So check out when Kevin gets his or Kessler's podcast comes up online, and definitely check it out. And Kevin's going to be part of the Independent Creative Network, which is the umbrella, if I'm not mistaken, the umbrella of the Hanging With web show. So lots and lots of content and creativity coming out from this network out here. Now, without further ado, and I have to say this because this is coming out on Saturday, but we're recording on Halloween itself. So if you're still having a Halloween weekend, I would hope you have a safe and wonderful Halloween. And we're going to start off with, I'm going to say it this way because a friend of mine suggested it, and I'll probably never do this again. We're going to go to the Boo-Hoo News with Sage Ia. Sage, take it away. I am never saying that again, ever in my life. Back to the Doctor Who News.
Oh.
Who News.
Boo-hoo, that makes me want to cry.
Yeah, I know. That's where it was going. I'm like, never mind.
Okay.
Sage, take it away.
Well, I have a couple pieces of news. There's going to be a 13th Doctor comic. Titan Comics is publishing the comic that goes on sale November 7th, and it's called Doctor Who, the 13th Doctor. Aptly named. So, yes, if you haven't had a chance, you can peek at the cover online, and then it'll be out for sale November 7th, but it looks incredibly awesome.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah, very nice. And also, for this lovely Arachnids in the UK episode, before all of you get started hashing it out and saying what you like, 6.4 million viewers tuned in for this episode, which matches the exact number of viewers for last week's episode.
So we had the premiere that kicked up around 10, and we knew it was going to kind of bellow out a little bit, but here we are. So we're kind of averaging out. The plane that took off, and now it's kind of
holding steady at about 6.5 million. That's
good.
That's nothing to sneeze at there. So that's pretty good.
I would love to have 6.5 million listeners for this radio show. Hopefully, we do.
Absolutely. All right. Well, jump in your TARDIS and take it away.
Exactly. Well, speaking of which, I did jump into my TARDIS. If you guys have a chance, we've already wrapped it up by the time you hear this, but we've wrapped up the 31 days of Halloween on the Traveling Tardis Facebook page, and a lot of you really enjoyed it. We had a poll. Some of you have some suggestions. If you have any suggestions, concerns, or things you want to add for it, we do this every year, 31 days of nothing but movie clips, clips from Doctor Who, music videos, and of course the Traveling TARDIS in the most scariest and most dangerous places it's ever been to. Definitely please check it out. And if you missed all of it, we actually have a full album of nothing but Halloween pictures. I think there's like 500 of them. So if you want your fill of Halloween, and it's right now Saturday, or whatever day you're listening to this to, and you say, you know what, I really want to check this out, go to The Legend of Traveling TARDIS at facebook.com/The Traveling TARDIS and check it out for yourself. They're still up there. There's a lot of music videos and such like that. It's basically all of the Doctor's friends coming out from the universe to help them support Halloween throughout the entire month of October. But I had a tremendous... Have you guys been to Spooky Empire?
Yes.
Yes. This is the paramount of horror conventions here. If not just Orlando, but probably I would say in the Southeast. I think it's wonderful. Aside from, I think, Walker Stalker that takes place in Atlanta. We just had a great time. They did it in the new location. It's the Caribbean Royale over by Disney World, and just taking the TARDIS out there and just completely going nuts, taking pictures. I wish I had gotten a lot, but unfortunately I was only able to go out there that Sunday, and I heard there was a huge crowd and a lot of excitement on the Friday and Saturday before I got there. But I got to meet a lot of people, but I got one celebrity picture, and it's the Elevator twins. And they are just so sweet. These women are just so sweet. They're nothing like their TV personas. Have you two ever seen Elevator on Game Show Network?
I have not.
Me neither.
It's essentially a very big jump scare horror game where they take a couple people, they put them on this quote-unquote elevator, and they go to different floors, and there's supposed to be a task that they have to do, and of course it's a terrifying obstacle that they have to do. Like, they have to find this flag, but they got to find it in a vat of pig fat while this monster is chasing them with a chainsaw, kind of deal. So, and they have to work together to get all these stuff and try to make it to the finale and win the game. I know, it's kind of weird, but I got to meet the twins, and if you've ever met the Elevator girls, they're wonderful people. So, without further ado, let's jump into this. The Arachnids in the UK. If you guys have not seen the episode, go ahead and just pause right now. Go ahead and check out the episode for yourself, and then come back over here. We're going to do our Traveling TARDIS ratings. 1, not so great. 10, the best thing ever. And I'm going to start with you, Jessica. How would you rate Arachnids in the UK?
I would rate it a solid 7 Traveling TARDISes with maybe a console, so 7.5.
So 7.5 TARDISes.
Yeah, 7.5 TARDISes. Traveling TARDIS with a console, 7.5.
And of course the lowest amount of TARDISes is going to get to go first. Kevin, tell me, how many TARDISes did you rank this?
I would give it a solid 7.
You gave it a solid 7. Okay. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to try to say that this way because I know a lot of things about what I've heard online have been a little bit on the controversial side. And for me, on this episode, had it just been a bunch of spiders that were mutating inside an old hotel that was abandoned, and they were finding out what was going on, and it turned out that the folly of man, who left radiation and poisons out for these spiders to mutate and grow and take over London, was the story, I would have given it a solid 9. However, I think the pun intended was I couldn't help the elephant in the room.
Very, very clever.
And it dropped to a solid 5. And I love the story idea. I mean, I was thinking that it was, even though Chibnall was saying I'm not going to bring back all the classic monsters, I was so hoping it was the spiders from Abelius 3. I was just hoping there. I just, it would have been a just sweet revenge, kind of deal if the spiders came back and started, wreaking havoc. And I remember that time because it was Planet of the Spiders. It was the last Third Doctor episode, and the Doctor had to get over his fear at the time to go fight these creatures because they were overpowering him. And then he finally went back, and eventually he met his demise and became the Fourth Doctor. The best way I could put this, and I talked to Gene Turnbow about this, Gene Turnbow, who's CEO of Krypton Radio, I like my chocolate without Trump marshmallows, please. I just couldn't get over it. I just couldn't help it, and I know that the fan base is not a big fan of Donald Trump. But it just seemed to be the thing that was in there the most that I just couldn't get out of my head. And if anybody wants to jump in on this, please. But
see, I understand. Yeah, I understand the issue with it, but we had with Tenet, you had Harriet Jones, who was based off of a political figure in the UK that didn't have a lot of fond reception from a large bit of the fan base. So, I mean, it's not like it's a new thing. It's that America's version, it definitely has a person you can pick at, which they did with Tenet as well. So I wouldn't say that it's a new thing. I think a lot of Americans are taking it a bit more personally because it is more personal.
Yeah.
But I didn't personally have an issue with it because I was like, hey, we had Harriet Jones, so why would I take offense to them kind of poking at ours if I was okay with them poking at theirs?
It's not that, and Kevin, let me get your take on it, and then I'll explain mine if our heads match on this one. Go for it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in agreement with Jessica, and I never put the Harriet Jones, Margaret Thatcher comparison.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming that's who you're comparing
Yes.
it to. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Honestly, and now that I think about it, like, it makes perfect sense. There has been a lot of, pop culture likes to imitate life a lot of times, or art imitates life, I guess is the saying. Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, you had a lot of George Bush references and whatnot at the, turmoil time. That being said, I understand the need to address a lot of the issues, but I feel like the last 2 weeks have been very, like, American issue heavy. Like, you had this guy who his name might as well have been Ronald Grump, who
or Frump or whatever they call him now.
Yeah, like
I got it.
You might as well have that, but last week you had issues of racism, so it just seems like they're going very heavy on the American political system right now. Not to say that those problems don't exist in the UK with Brexit and whatnot as well. However, on the other side of the coin, I watch shows like Doctor Who to escape from the 24-hour news cycle and the horrifying things that I see and hear on a daily basis.
Yes.
I can't escape it on my Facebook page. I can't escape it on television. I can't escape it on YouTube. I can't escape it in Doctor Who. And when, on my show, when we talk about the CW DC universe, this will come up because they do it like Supergirl and Black Lightning are extremely political shows. So it's kind of a common theme right now. I understand the need to address these issues in a medium that people can kind of identify with. Because not everyone's going to watch, CNN or Fox News, but people might watch an episode of Supergirl about bump stocks or an episode of, Doctor Who dealing with, the fallout of this political system. So I see the good and the bad in it.
I get your point. The thing is it's not that it's not necessarily Trump is freaking everywhere. I could have flipped 10 channels consecutively to Food Network and whatever channels were next to BBC America. I could have flipped 10 more channels and there would have been something about Trump. And like you said, I used Doctor Who to get away from that. I tried to, because I want to see the Doctor take on some bug-eyed monsters or the Master, the Daleks, or the Cybermen, and the companions to work with the Doctor and just go at it and just have this amazing moral to the story. But it was just, it was basically a gun to the head when it came to Trump. Not only did we have everything that was a parody, we had a Trump character parody in this story. From you're fired to I got a big hotel and, I don't care about people around me, to him pulling out a gun and shooting the mother spider. It was just like, there's too much to this. I mean, this is why I even stopped watching late night talk shows, because it's all. I mean,
well, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but the one thing that Doctor Who has always meant and has always been is you don't ignore things. And so maybe this, and I could be reading extremely too much into it, but maybe by reinforcing it, and yes, I agree with you, it is everywhere, and sometimes you do just want to shut it off because it is shoved down our throats so much. But maybe in a place that is usually used as escapism, such as Doctor Who, maybe it's supposed to be a subtle reminder of, you're not supposed to shut this off because this is our world, this is our planet, this is something that is affecting us every day, and we can satire about it as much as we like, but, the Doctor wouldn't turn their back. The Doctor wouldn't ignore it or get the Doctor does distract himself or herself, let's be honest, but themselves. But maybe it is themselves. Pronouns, but so maybe, and like I said, I could easily be reading way too much into it, but for me I know you came here for an escape, but you can't escape what is going on, no matter how much you run away from it. And sometimes you have to make a statement and you have to make a stand with what you believe in, whether that's for the political bits that are thrown into the episode, their version of it, or your own personal take on it. So maybe it's that, but I absolutely do understand the not wanting it everywhere, because it's not like they didn't last season make fun of the Cheeto, and stuff like that. And it was, and it's in a subtle, lighthearted way, whereas this one was right in your face. But when I was in the UK, I was in the UK last year, and he was still everywhere. People were talking about him on the tube, and there were quite a lot, and it was the way that it was affecting the UK as well. Right. So it wasn't, it's hard to tell being over across the pond in our world, and we hear about Trump all the time, but you don't realize how much his actions and his words affect the lives of everyone, not just in our country, but in all the other countries. And I noticed that when I was in the UK. So for him and a satire of him to be in this episode, it made sense to me, and it didn't bother me. But everyone's entitled to their own, Well,
let's hold that thought. We're going to take a commercial break and pay some bills. We're going to continue our review of Arachnids in the UK, so stand by, folks, and continue to be part of the legend.
How you doing, everybody? This is KG Bethlehem. I'm an author of a new book called Certain Moments of Time. It's a collection of short stories. These short stories range from post-apocalyptic, dystopian, anti-utopia, as well as general fiction. You can find Certain Moments of Time on sale at Amazon.com, where you can purchase the ebook format as well as paperback format. You can also purchase it at Lulu.com, paperback format, and will be on sale soon at BarnesandNoble.com.
Hello, sweeties. I'm Crystal Moore. I play the Doctor in fan series Doctor Who Velocity. You're listening to The Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show.
Channeling the Mothership is an exciting journey into the higher mysteries. Certified psychic medium and clairvoyant Jerry McDaniel's readings, writings, and messages have been received by thousands of people in more than 45 countries. These messages have been obtained by channeling his higher self. How does he do it? Is it a blessing or a curse? And what lay beyond the reach of your five senses? These mysteries and so much more are examined in this explosive book, Channeling the Mothership. Explore the mysteries of the spiritual and the metaphysical. Channeling the Mothership by author Jerry McDaniel. Available on Amazon.com today.
Now back to your host, Christian Basel.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that at all. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. I'm with Jessica Womack of SongSwann Cosplay on Instagram. I'm also here with author Kevin Kessler, and introducing another author who's just joining us to talk about Itsy Bitsy spiders, who knows it too well, the author of Erie, Florida, as much as a bunch of other horror books, Mr. Mark Muncy. Welcome to the show there, sir. How you doing?
Hey, gang. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to you, too. We're, just to let folks know, we're recording this on Halloween, and it is premiering on this coming this Saturday, so I hope you're listening to it. We hope you had a great Halloween season. Speaking of which, if you were listening during the commercial break, our good friend Crystal Harris, who was actually the doctor before Jodie, the female doctor before Jodie came in, check out her third episode of Doctor Who Velocity. Go on her Facebook page. Check it out on YouTube. Before there was Jodie, there was Crystal. She actually played the doctor before Jodie in the well, I don't want to say spinoff. What is it? Not how much. I don't want to say parody either. What would you call that? Fanfic. There you go. My gosh, wow, I can't even talk today. The fanfic Doctor Who Velocity. Please check it out and tell Crystal that we sent you. You're going to love it. Each episode is roughly about 10 to 15 minutes long. You'll have great time to binge watch it, and it's some really, really good stuff. Some really good sci-fi there going on out there. So we're going back to, and folks, if you haven't seen the episode yet, please go ahead and pause this, then check out the episode of Arachnids in the UK. Bringing Mark into the fray. Mark, we did our Traveling Tardis count, 1 being not so great, 10 being awesome. Well, how would you rank Arachnids in the UK? And why?
I give it around a 5. It was very.
Oh, you gave it the same rating I did. Wow, okay. Please elaborate why you gave it a 5, because I did the same.
Well, I heard a little bit at the end there where you guys were talking the obvious the guy who rhymes
elephant in the room. Yep,
who rhymes with Trump. But I love that he was basically Trump, but he hated Trump, which I thought was they made a line where he makes a line where I hate Donald Trump. Don't mention that name. I'm like, but you're him.
Yeah. And that's what actually threw me off of the whole thing. It's just like they created this parody Trump character. And he's running against Trump. I'm like, where are we going with this?
Yeah, well, wouldn't Trump hate Trump? Let's be honest.
I was just thinking that if there were 2 Donald Trumps, they would despise each other.
They would hate each other.
I disagree. Have you seen him talk about himself? I mean, the man's in love with himself. I'm sure there would be billions in the room. He would be in love with all of them. Yeah.
No, it was just it felt like it kept building. And again, they're doing the same thing where they're not making any answers. They, we've got the landfills that are causing this, the spider, genetic buildup, and no one puts 2 and 2 together until halfway through the episode. And it's like, even Planet of the Spiders, they figured this out pretty quick. Or Green Death, which this reminded me of so much. Even that they put together quick, and it's just tough solutions. This was, I don't know. It just didn't hit with me. The only thing that really pushed it up for me was, surprisingly, the emotional impact with Graham and all the stuff he had to go through.
I love that.
I
love that scene. That's why it's such a 9 for me.
Is it scary for me that he's carrying the show for me in a lot of ways?
Yes.
It's just because he's getting all the emotional baggage and all that, and the Finn and Ray relationship there between the other two seems to just not really have a spark there at all, and I couldn't figure that one out either, that they keep trying to ship. But other than that, I love it. So I enjoyed Creepy Spiders, but meh.
Yeah, for that moment that Graham was in the room, I wanted to give Graham a hug. I just and he's been through a lot. I mean, he went into space. Then he had to deal, he has to deal with the loss of Grace and having to take care of Ryan. I mean, a lot of baggage is on his back, and I'm liking to see that they're kind of teetering, they're kind of toying with Graham and Ryan's relationship throughout the episodes, and seeing, they're kind of connecting a little bit more and more and more, and Grace seems to be the catalyst between them. And if they can just reach out to each other, hope for the best. Now that they're back into the TARDIS, I'm hoping for more adventures where their relationship is put to the test, and they find a common bond to each other to take on whatever adversary or bad juju comes up. But I just wanted to give the guy a hug when he was in that room. I felt so bad for him. He went the spider, the cobweb. I'm like, oh boy. So what do we think? I mean, well, we're already talking about that, but instead, I'm going to remove the word Trump out. Let's use the word Robertson, which is the guy's name. Chris Knopf played the character. As a villain, I don't even know if you can define him as a villain too much. How do you define him as a character? What did you think about him? What was the good and bad about Robertson? Just him.
Honestly,
I thought he was Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I thought that he's a great actor. I've seen him do a lot of amazing roles.
Yeah.
This, just a real good, solid character actor. And in this, he knew what he was playing, and he was chewing it up for every minute he had. And so he made it over the top, and it almost kind of went into camp a little bit. And I enjoyed that. I thought that was actually what made it more fun, was because this guy knew he was playing it tongue in cheek. I wish they'd taken the threats more seriously.
Jessica, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, he was playing that stereotypical, businessman who, is used to getting his way on everything and has a lot of money. So, I mean, I thought it was a very cut and dry character, and he portrayed it extremely well. But this is a type of person that you would know in real life. He almost reminded me of Titanic, the businessman on Titanic.
Yeah, the Voyage of the Dam, and I was actually going to relate to that one, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but he definitely reminded me of that, and it was almost like seeing if that guy had been on the planet, what he would have been like when he was in power of the selling of the bonds and everything. But, yeah, just as a villain, he's a very villain, quote unquote. Very cut and dry for what that was, and was definitely just a side piece to intensify the action, I think.
Kevin, what do you think about Robertson?
So it's not even so much about Robertson, but just a lot about the approach that Chibnall seems to be taking thus far. We're not getting, thus far at least, not a lot of alien threats. Yes, we had an alien threat in the first one, but a lot of the threats this season up to now have been very human threats. The last week it was very much racism was the villain of the episode, whereas this week it's another, it's another human-based threat. It's another a threat that was a science experiment gone wrong. It's not some alien from another dimension, and it was the greed of quote unquote corporate America. And right. I thought that worked really well, and I think that's been working really well. And I like watching the Doctor deal with, it's not always rhino people in body armor that are storming out of spaceships. Like this, it's just like a corrupt businessman, and the mistakes that he makes, coming through on this. I think it's very well done.
You see, I didn't actually appreciate Robertson that much. I think he got way too campy. I think he was playing a caricature as opposed to a character who could, relate to what was going on and, and raise the stakes a little bit. I think it was just because you guys had mentioned that, and this is actually, you can actually relate this to the Third Doctor's time when he was at Dalamaris. Some of the threats are not from outer space. Some of the threats are here, and they reside here. And, some of them have to be taken care of. But I don't know. Could I be wrong? Because I'm just getting maybe a little bit over the old cliche that the rich guy is the evil guy all the time. And, we got to take down the corporate America, and we have to look at the humanity of things. Is that always going to be the case? Is there a story that says something different about that? Well, I don't know if I just appreciate the stereotype because I'm sorry, Jess. Let me go ahead and finish. Go. Because I just didn't like the bad guys, because Krasko, who was supposed to be this evil, mean person who was in the storm cage, has killed thousands of people. And he's kind of taken out 3/4 of the way of the episode, and I'm like, wow, that's the bad guy, really? That's it? That was too easy. And then we have Robertson, who's just a parody of, our orange Cheeto boy over here. And I totally get that, but I didn't. To me, it was almost like, and I hate to say it this way, I think it's sloppy writing on the villains. And if this is the direction we're going, bring me back a Dalek and a Cyberman. Because it just seems like it's not being thought out too well. Somebody prove me wrong, please. Jessica, go for it.
Well, actually, I think we have to take a commercial break. They're
do it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
My apologies there. Hey, folks, go ahead. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back, pay some bills, and we'll be continuing with the Legend of the Traveling Tardis.
From author Sherry Rentschler comes the Evening Bower series, a prophecy from the lost city of Atlantis, a pairing whose union will change the future. Magical creatures, prophecy, destiny, and love collide in a new kind of romance. It's Sherry Rentschler's Evening Bower series, a haunting and compelling tale pulled from humanity's lost histories. Begin the adventure with Time and Blood on Amazon.com today. Forever is only the beginning.
This is Cosplay Michael with the Hanging With Web Show. I want to tell you about my friends at Embellis Effects in Orlando, Florida. They've got makeup, costumes, and props for all of your costume needs. And the team at Embellis Effects is helpful and friendly. Embellis Effects is one of my favorite places, and I know it will be yours too. I'll see you there. Or go to embelliseffects.com. And remember, cosplay is for everyone.
We all have one shot at life. Rambling Across America by Tommy Ray is an adventure about chasing dreams. In brilliant prose, follow Tommy Ray through personal experience, inspirational quotes, and photos from his Confessions of a Dreamer tour. Woke one night from a dream, Tommy resigned his safe, secure position and took a leap of faith. Now, he invites you to follow his journey. Rambling Across America by Tommy Ray. Get it on Amazon.com because today is going to be ridiculously amazing.
And ladies and gentlemen, all Whovians across the universe, we are back with our review of Arachnids in the UK. Jessica, you had something to say if you just want to follow up?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to kind of bounce off is just that art imitates life. And I agree with last week's episode, not the Arachnids, but the Rosa episode, that, you know, the villain was poorly dealt with and written, and I really kind of hope we see him again. If that's terrible, I really want to, and I think they set it up to. I just hope that they do that.
No, that's not terrible. And in the way the Master comes back, or if you really have a good bad guy who the Doctor needs to take on every now and then, I mean, there seems so much potential, and it just kind of got literally zapped into the past. Yeah.
But I think this week was mainly just an art imitates life, and yes, it is seen quite often in film and books and everything, but it's because it's true most of the time. If you've got a lot of money, how do you get that money? There's a definite type of person that generally ends up in that particular situation of a businessman. So it's sad, but true. The other thing I've heard as a critique is this season, all of our villains have been male. Okay. And so I had someone, and I hadn't even noticed, and I had someone I was talking to, and they were like, yeah, they're all guys. Like, sure, Tim Shaw was an alien, but, like, he was humanoid. And, so I thought that was an interesting thing as well, is we have not had any females or, like, overly alien villains this season.
Okay.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, with the exception of the tooth guy in the first episode, that's what I was saying as well. Like, every threat is coming from humans thus far. I doubt it's going to be like that the entire season, but it'd be interesting to see if even like the big bad of the season is going to be a human threat.
And well, to be fair, they did make the giant spider a woman. It was a mother.
Oh, true.
Yeah, so she was a queen.
I don't think that counts.
But she was caused by a male.
She wasn't a villain, even though she was the threat.
Which is ironic, because I think there have been a couple episodes. I think the last Capaldi episode, the threat was not actually a villain. It was basically just there, and even after which it discovered the Doctor and said, "Hey, Doctor, you're really a great guy. I mean, you're a great bloke." There you go. So I'm going to do something I'm trying to do because I don't want the whole episode to be about it. Let's move away from the elephant in the room and let's hit towards more of the storyline with the spiders and with what was going on. And also, I think we even dealt in depth a little bit more with Yaz's character. We got to see her family.
Yeah.
What did you think about them?
I was happy to finally see a family. We've missed out since earlier of the reboot of seeing people's families. So it was kind of like a breath of fresh air to really get to see one of the friends or companions' family again.
Yeah, it had a very Jackie Tyler kind of feel to it. I liked that a lot. I thought that the way she got on with her family was like when she brought friends home and they're just like, oh my gosh, friends! Like it was such a telling moment for Yaz as a character and how just how into the idea of. Did you also, by the way, did you get the feeling that Nadja was a little homophobic? Guys, I kind of got that. Like,
I don't know if homophobic would be the word. I think she's a little bit more into herself.
No, I got the sense that she was homophobic because she asks if Yaz is dating the doctor. in a very like trepidatious way. But when it was the concept of dating Ryan, she was all excited about it.
I did not catch that, but that is a good catch. That's very, very interesting. And I love the doctor's reaction. It's like, are we?
Also, speaking of families, did anyone else catch the fact that the doctor mentioned that they had sisters?
Yeah. I thought that was.
I always love those little
new.
nuggets. Like we know the doctor had grandchildren. We know the doctor was married. We know the doctor had kids. Now we know the doctor had sisters.
Always expanding the lore.
I'm hoping they don't give too much in the lore because I remember interviewing Andrew Cartmel, and you still have to go back to being Doctor Who. The whole title is that this is a person who is mysterious, and I think if we go into and reveal too much to Doctor Who, then it's kind of lost its mystery. It's, we don't know who this alien is, what makes this alien go every so often, and even with a different regeneration. We know that the moral compass, as far as the thing from Galaxy Quest, that line from Galaxy Quest I always hear in my head. But we know, I don't want to know too much because I know there was a big hoopla with knowing the name of the Doctor, and a lot of people didn't even want to know the name of the Doctor, but that was just the title. And it ended up being a tool or a device for the episode that it was in. But I think if we know too much about the Doctor, it's going to be too much. Now, also, the Doctor, from what I know of Classic Who, the Doctor rambles. The Doctor says a lot of things. The Doctor says weird things. And in some cases, I think Chibnall throws those in there just to go, what did she just say? What is going on? So,
and you don't know how much you can believe of it because it's the Doctor.
You don't know if she's making it up or if she's just rambling on. But this is nothing new to the Doctor Who mythos. I mean, classic Doctors have done this, where they just ramble on and they've said, oh, I've seen so-and-so or I've seen this. And even the one thing that kind of threw fans off was, where did Graham get those sunglasses from the Doctor? How did the Doctor get those sunglasses? Type deal. But I'm digressing. Let's get back to the story there. What did you guys think of the story itself, just with the spiders and them being inside what was going on? And yeah, they weren't really the bad guys.
No, I know they were trying to build it up as like a creepy tension because people are afraid of spiders. But these were so big to be cartoonish. I think it lost all the fear and mystery in it, and that was my real problem with it. It's like you can do a spider episode and make it creepy, and then doing the whole environmental disaster thing. I mean, that's been done in The Green Death and a bunch of other episodes over and over and over again, and done better. I think this was very heavy-handed. I was very disappointed with the plot.
What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I mean, if I can take like the episode piece by piece, I took a bunch of notes, just things that I loved. Is it just me? I missed the TARDIS being in the opening. I enjoy her opening. I like the effects on it. I miss the TARDIS being there flying through. But now, did you know when the TARDIS was flying through in the beginning, that TARDIS tunnel, like the time stream that it's going through, was gorgeous.
Oh, that was awesome.
It was like Doctor Strange level cool. Like, I really liked it. And, I mean, I feel like this was an episode where the Doctor herself, the Doctor says she's still figuring out who we are. We, as the audience, are also still figuring out who she is. And we saw a lot of it. My heart broke when Graham, Yaz, and Ryan were leaving the TARDIS, and she was all sad. The bonds forming between the team based on their shared experiences, it's all starting to solidify. This is really becoming a unit, and I really, really like that. I'm also heavily shipping. I know Mark said he didn't like it, but I really like Yaz and Ryan as a couple. I think it's a great ship, and I really like it. When her skanky sister was like walking up to Ryan, I was like, back off, like he's not yours. The Doctor being socially awkward is adorable, and I also love how compassionate this Doctor is. You're dealing with giant spiders like that look a lot. I thought the spiders were creepy. I thought they were super creepy. I thought the episode was shot in a very creepy way. I thought for an episode that is essentially their Halloween episode this year, the shots where when you don't see the spiders, they're even creepier. Like when they go through that woman's apartment and there's all the webs everywhere, and you see like the scuttling and like the POV camera. I thought it was very well done. I was very creeped out by it. But they looked like the Arachnids from Harry Potter.
I've heard that all throughout. Yeah. Everybody was mentioning it.
When the mommy spider came through the bathtub, I felt like it was going to be like, goodbye, friend of Hagrid. But and I loved. We finally got that moment at the end where it's like, now it's not just trying to get them home. It's the team is solidified. They're going to journey, and we had that next stop everywhere moment that the Doctor usually has in their first episode. I thought it was very well done. I liked the story.
Now here, Jessica, funny you should mention that, Kevin, because Jessica, there's been a quiet evolution of the Doctor that I've noticed. When we first see Eccleston's Doctor, he's Time War old, he's Time War drained, he's gone through hell and back, and he doesn't want to be domesticated. Flash forward to David Tennant, you still get that Time War feeling because he's kind of still suffering from it, but even in the next Doctor, when he's invited to Thanksgiving Day, when he's invited to Christmas dinner, he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to. I got to move on. I can't stay here. He still he's the lonely god. But then we get to Matt Smith, and that changes when he gets with the Pawns. And now, when I saw the Doctor, she reminds me of that person at a convention when the convention's over and her friends start to walk away. And they just like, wait. Can we just have like coffee before you go or something like? Can we have?
Oh, you want to go out for dinner after?
Exactly.
All hungry, right? Yeah. No, definitely. I saw that progression, and it's beautiful. You notice it's after the 50th. I feel as soon as he realizes he didn't do it. Mm-hmm. With the Time War. Sorry, I would need to be more specific. But the Time War, there's just a weight that, you even noticed with Matt and during the end of his seasons that was still there at the beginning, and, all of Capaldi. But it's just been great to see Jodie take on that, that role and seeing the progression of the Doctor. The one thing I loved about the progression was when they were all standing in the TARDIS at the very end, and she's like, are you sure? Because this isn't going to be okay. Whereas the Doctor's definitely sugarcoated it in the past of like, oh no, it's going to be great. You're going to see all these great things, and I just need people, which the Doctor does. But in this one, it was finally like the Doctor has finally matured enough to face up to the fact that, tell people up front what they're getting into and don't form that attachment. And it's almost like you saw the guilt of all the people that the Doctor has kind of lured in and got them hooked on that adventure soaked life. And in this one, I just loved that progression of like, I know that I'm a danger, I know that I can show you amazing things, but there is always a cost. And I need you to make sure that you know exactly what that cost is before you say yes. And that was one of my favorite moments that's happened in the progression of the Doctor, because you can go and see every single Doctor, and it's kind of been moving to this moment. And that's one of my favorite portions of this episode, was that hardcore moment of like, are you sure? Because I'm on board with it if you are, but you got to know what you're signing up for.
Yeah, I got that moment from the TV movie where the 8th Doctor at the end, where they're going, me come with you, and the Doctor turns around and goes, it's tempting. You have that moment that he just wants to be domesticated, but he can't be. But he does, or she does, want to be with friends there. Folks, we're heading out for our last set of commercials. Hang tight, become part of the state. Wow, I can't even talk today. Folks, just hang tight while we get these commercials and pay some bills. Please stay after. We're coming up to the final portion of our review of Arachnids in the UK.
Grab some altitude and adventure together at Pound the Grape. It's all about an adventure above the crowd. There's always something different happening there, from painting to food pairings to dancing. But one thing's rock solid, people sharing incredible wines from around the world. And if that's not what puts Lift under your wing, try their craft beer. Grab some altitude and adventure at Pound the Grape. Find more at poundthegrape.com. Poundthegrape.com. Pour a glass of adventure.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics. It's Germany, 1938. Charlotte is a 15-year-old girl living in the Jewish quarter. George lives in the city proper, and enamored by Charlotte's charm and grace when she wanders into his cobbler shop, George decides right then and there that he is going to marry her. Follow along as this unlikely couple struggles to stay one step ahead of the Gestapo and their dramatic escape from Nazi Germany. Good things always happen in springtime, from author Joanne Fisher, on Amazon.com today.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're back, fellow Whovians, to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. Welcome back there. I'm your host, Christian Basel. I'm here with Jessica Womack, Kevin Kessler, and Mark Muncy. So we're continuing our wrap-up of the review for the Arachnids in the UK. I want to take this time to more or less, since we've gotten about 3 or 4 episodes into the show, kind of get the feel of Chris Chibnall as far as his direction with as being showrunner with the episodes. How do you feel about him being the showrunner and the direction he is now taking with Doctor Who and Jodie? I'll start with you, Kevin. What do you think?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question? I
Absolutely.
cut out for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I wanted to take more on, since we've gotten a few episodes under our belt, how you feel about Chris Chibnall as showrunner and the direction he's taking Doctor Who in with Jodie.
It's definitely different from the Moffat era, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that Moffat's influence has been felt since Eccleston, and it was time for a hard right turn. I like the human threats that have been popping up. I think that his dialogue has been very good, very witty, very fast paced. I feel like he's made the Doctor more alien than previous incarnations. Mm-hmm. I feel like she's a bit more outsider than, let's say, a Matt Smith or a Peter Capaldi was. Especially Peter Capaldi. It's and that's the thing. She's so, when you went from David Tennant to Matt Smith, it wasn't much of a change. I always say David Tennant is the cool nerd that all nerds wish they were, or all nerds think they are. You
really think so?
Oh, David Tennant's the cool nerd that all nerds think they are. Matt Smith is who they actually are. Capaldi was a hard right turn, and I feel like Jodie is another hard left. And I think it's good. I think it's a refreshing change of pace. I think he's bringing a whole new energy to the show. I think this is the new status quo. I don't love not using the classic villains, because I feel like the Doctor isn't really truly the Doctor until they face the Daleks for the first time.
Gotcha. Jessica, what do you think about the show, the direction of the show and the showrunner?
I feel like it was trying to find some grounds in the first 2 episodes, but I think these last 2 episodes it's really started to feel like Doctor Who, mainly just because, I always miss a good history piece, and we finally got that. And then with this, the Arachnids in the UK, we've got, a nice homegrown monster type thing. So, I really like the way that it's going. I'm still, still feel like it's still finding its feet a little bit. I can't not get used to the camera angles, though. The close-ups on the faces is throwing me. I will say that one. But plot-wise, it's getting there. It still doesn't feel like hardcore Doctor Who. It doesn't feel like it's not Doctor Who, but I still need that. I think it might be missing the Daleks, because those classic monsters are really what kind of gives us that home feeling, I guess. And one of those moments was getting the TARDIS finally. but I like it so far. It's not I hate this season. I definitely think it's a lot better than the most recent Moffat seasons, although I absolutely adored the first couple Moffat seasons. So it's like give and take.
Yeah. Mark, what do you think about how the series is going at this moment?
It's again agreed. It's trying to find its footing. I like that they're doing a lot of throwbacks to old school Doctor Who, where they had the history episode where we can't, change history too much, which reminded me of an old Hartnell era stuff. And then we had the this week with the classic monster episode, which was very much a Pertwee era and even early Tom Baker era episode. So I like that they're trying to do that without being over the top with it. It definitely has a lot of long ways to go to win me over. I'm not hating it. It's very there's some episodes that have been really extraordinary, and then they're followed by a very meh episode, and then an extraordinary episode, and then a meh episode, and it's reminding me of like the Star Trek movies. It's like every even episode's gonna suck. Okay. I'm a little nervous, but like I said, I'm enjoying it. The ones I'm enjoying, I'm really enjoying. So
here's my take on this, and tell me I'm a little bit off. I don't know if maybe I don't think Chibnall understands the audience too well, and I know this sounds a little bit off, but I'm a Doctor Who buff I watch Doctor Who for escapism, and when the reality of things happen, it's kind of a weird mix because I want to. What I really want is the Doctor to go out there, take on some monsters, and have a really good moral to the story, and have really cool companions to deal with and to play with, and the TARDIS does her own thing around space and time. I really want a good story, and what I got was in the second episode, racism bad, and in the third episode, in this episode, Trump is bad. And I'm like, I know that. Why are you telling me this in a story?
But you know what? Like the Doctor has done episodes about, hey, the Nazis are bad. Hey, you know.
But that's what the Daleks were for. They were to implement something different. The way that I think of good storytelling is I can tell you a moral and you wouldn't even know that you're learning something. And I'm going to make you think about something that you didn't even think that you were already knowing. Maybe even thought that you had a stance on it. And I draw back to the episode, and I can't remember it, but there was a Star Trek episode. We know racism is bad. We all know that. We hope we all know that. And if you're a Whovian,
look at the world. Not everybody knows that,
right? But if you're a Whovian, you know that. And the greatest thing about something like, and I'm going to get to the episode, a Star Trek episode where I think it was, it was the guy who played Joker in the 60 series,
Frank Gorshin.
Frank Gorshin. You remember the episode I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was white on one side, black on the other, black on one side, white on the other.
Right, yes. And they were there was nothing different except where the color scheme was. But it wasn't a gun in your face like racism is bad. Here was this wonderful story about two people who couldn't get along, and that was the only difference. And we used great storytelling to do that. And I bet you people who see that episode were going, it wasn't... I hate to use the term, but it wasn't Bible thumping. It was something that people could experience, learn, and enjoy, and go, you know what? I didn't see it this way, and it was given to me in an approach that wasn't bashing it on my head. And with this episode, with the character of Robertson, I get it. And then we're also going to mention the president's name in this episode. I'm like, what? Why? I know that this is bad. And I know he's a bad guy. Why not have a character that kind of parodies it and make him a little bit more serious, that we understand it, and not use the name, not even mention him, but just put it in there, and then we start seeing intricacies that we go, oh, this is bad. This isn't good. And we understand that. Because we know what's good and bad, I think, as an audience. I don't need to be reminded of it. But if you tell me in a good story, in a good way, maybe people who don't understand it are going to learn something that they didn't know, and they didn't have to be beaten over the head with it. Because here's the thing, and here's the question that I bring up that was brought to me. if somebody, let's just say, and I know this is funny, somebody had mentioned to me, if there was a Trump supporter or a Republican, would you use that episode to introduce them to Doctor Who? And I remember this line that was taking place by an interview that the lady who did the after party for BBC America interviewed Jodie, and Jodie said this line, and I'm holding Chibnall to this: Doctor Who is inclusive of everyone. And that's what's so wonderful about it. It doesn't matter who you are, what skin color, what sex, what gender, whatever. It's a love of about everybody. And it's an appreciation for people to understand the best of humanity through this alien and her companions and her magical traveling box. And I had to sit there and go, how could I show this to somebody who might be interested, who has a different point of view? How could I bring that person in? And here's the episode. And what happens with people when you do that and take their views and put a gun to their head, instead of, oh, okay, well, maybe I was wrong, I was going to take it to the other side, they double down on what they believe in.
But you know what? I also feel like I'm tired of this rhetoric where it's like anytime anybody's like, hey, you know what's bad? Racism. You know what's horrible? Like xenophobia. Like people should be good people. Everyone's like, stop attacking the president. Like that shouldn't be like saying like be good, be a good person. It shouldn't be an attack on a political party. Like that's kind of the sad truth of where we are right now. And unfortunately, we have to agree that we're going to live in a world where people are going to be having different views, and they're going to be probably on the extreme. But we have to set on the reality that these people are going to exist. But how do we make these people who may be sitting on the border fence turn them around to say, hey, I want you to watch this Doctor Who because Jodie told me this is an inclusive show and you should be a part of this. And once you're enthralled, you're going to enjoy this. Now, a lot of people, and then somebody said, well, if they're a Trump supporter, they're not going to watch Doctor Who. And I said, did you even give them a chance? I mean, how far does inclusiveness go? I mean, I'm pretty sure when Jodie said that, she wasn't referring to like literal Nazis, like the people from Charlottesville that are marching in the street yelling "Jews will not replace us." I don't think that. I no.
And I agree with that, but I have no defense for this past episode. But with Rosa, I agree that it's saying, it's, yes, racism's bad, but I don't think it was written for those who are not experiencing racism. Because I feel like the moment for that, and I think this is where Jodie comes off of, is it was for Ryan and for Yaz, who were having to experience it, and it's how do you deal with that? So it wasn't written for those who don't experience racism. I feel like that episode wasn't telling us racism is bad. It was telling us how do you deal with it when you're faced with it. And that's how I took that particular episode. Because yes, that is the bad person, and I kind of wish once again we had more depth with our villain from Stormcage. Of like, why is he racist? Like, obviously he is, but why? Were they the ones who turned him in? And there was no depth of that. But for the rest of the episode, I feel like it wasn't written for those who have never experienced racism. It was written for those who have. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, folks, as much as I would like, we could probably keep going and going. We're down to the last minute. Does anybody have any final thoughts about this episode, Arachnids in the UK?
Snakes on a plane.
Well, you have Samuel L. Jackson come out and start shooting up everything.
I'm just going to say...
I will always feel guilty killing any spider. I already did, but now I'll feel even worse if I have to kill even a roach or a spider.
I'll just say, even with the crappy effects it had, Green Death did the same story better 30 years ago.
Gotcha there. Well, folks, we're wrapping up this episode. I want to thank Jessica Womack. Again, check her out on Instagram on SongSwann Cosplay. Kevin Kessler, go ahead real fast. Tell us a little bit about your show again, where people can see it when it premieres.
Justice Watchtower, you're going to be able to find it on Krypton Radio, on iTunes, Stitcher, eventually Spotify after we have 5 episodes. But check us out on Facebook by looking up Just Us Watchtower.
And check out Mark Muncy, all of his books, Erie, Florida. These are wonderful, wonderful books. You check it out, especially if you're not done with the Halloween season. You definitely want to check it out. Also, check out our sister show, Hanging with Web Show. Weekly shows on daily shows on YouTube, weekly shows on the iHeart channel, and on Krypton Radio, and my partner and friend Dr. Squee and Dottie Hu, Gallifrey Stands podcast. Folks, thank you for joining us. Thank you for checking us out every week. We're going to have hopefully some exciting news coming up. Again, we hope you had a safe and wonderful Halloween. Stay tuned, stay logged on, and continue to become part of the legend.
Thank you.